Today I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how to replace the front wheel bearing on my 07 Colorado. You're going to need 14 mil for that bolt up there, 21 for the ones that hold the caliper bracket on. Take the brake rotor off when we get that far. It's going to be a 17 thin wall, so it'll fit in there. The back ones, where are they? The back one's in here, and down in here, if you can see that, there's going to be 16 or 15, I don't remember right off. And if you live somewhere where rust is great, like we do, PV Blast and a torch is going to be your best friend. I've soaked everything a little while ago in preparation for this, and keep you posted. We'll see how this goes. After we get the 14 mils out to hold the caliper on, what I like to do is stick the pry bar down in here and just give it a little pull to collapse that brake cylinder just a little bit, so that when you start to brake it out, oh, we don't want to break that. And just tuck the rotor up out of the way. I mean, it'd be better if you zip tied it somewhere, but oh, that's exactly why. That's exactly why right there. You don't want to break that flex line. They're not cheap. And then I think you have to fold the caliper bracket out of the way to get those out. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see in a second here. Also, I know I said it's 21, but you're gonna need a wobble if you get one to get on the top one, or you're gonna be stuck using a 21 wrench, which you can't really get a lot of leverage on compared to the big bar. And once you get that bracket off, I just leave the pads in it. It's easier that way. And it gives you better access to getting those rear, those rear 16s or 15s. Pretty sure they're 15s. I mean, it's not great. By trial and error, you are going to have to rotate to get at the back two. You're going to have to rotate the wheels towards the driver's side. And to get the front two, you're going to have to rotate them back to the passenger side. Or else you keep hitting your ratchets on the sway bar link there and you can't get in there. And we'll see, if you live in a nice rusty place like I do, first one I tried, rounded it right off. Could have put the easy out on it, put the socket on it, put the bearing. Well, I think we'll lose a little bit of heat. See what happens. So after about, I don't know, 60-90 seconds on the heat, big bar, first one's coming out. Let's hope the rest of them go easier than that. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Just look at all the corrosion. And these wheel bearings were replaced about 2 years ago, right before I got the truck and it had its inspection. And everything is just, well, the frame's not too bad for being an East Coast truck, but that's just terrible. Also, I know it's kind of late, but big correction. The corrosion's just messing with me, and it's actually a 14 mil fits nice and snug on there. My bad. As it turns out, on the bottom one, to clear the ball joint cap, get some white down here, you're gonna need a little extension because your ratchet just does not go on there. Well, it's all 4 bolts out, but I think we're gonna have to track down some hardware because they're kind of roached now. That's unfortunate. Once you get all those bolts off, you're gonna want to rotate it back towards your driver's side, so it'll give you this opening here with the rotor. And if you look down in there, there's a couple notches that you'll find. You can't really see them with all the crud in mind, but there's a couple notches in there. You can stick your punch and get a big hammer and just start going to town, hammering it out. If you live somewhere nice, like out west or down Florida or something where rust doesn't really exist, then it's gonna be a lot easier than I'm in for. Here, I got that one in one of those tabs I was talking about. And what I did, I just jammed it down in a little bit, sprayed a bunch more PV Blast in. I'm gonna take a slight coffee break and let that sink in there and then get hammering away. So After you get all that apart, you take your nice shiny one out of the box. And you slide that down on there. And you get to line up both holes. And carefully flip her over. Put all those bolts back in there. And if we get a new battery, so just like a tire. Alright, so once you get that all back together, you get those 4 bolts put back in there. I ended up just cleaning them up, getting them a little bit better, and I couldn't find any hardware I had around the house to fit, so. And when you put them back in, don't forget the Loctite. How much Loctite? All of the Loctite. Last thing you're gonna want is those vibrating loose while you're driving down the road and your tire going bye-bye. Alright, next we're going to put the caliper bracket back on, followed by the caliper and the tire, and should be it. It's a good idea too, once you have this all apart, just even though this caliper bracket and the caliper was recently replaced, it's a good idea to check your sliders, because that one doesn't do a whole lot. And there's that one. So we're going to clean those up, put it back together while it's already apart, avoid a little service down the road. So a quick last minute note, just put the bracket on. If you mess up the backing plate, you will need to put a spacer in there, or else the rotor's going to come up solid, or at least rub, on the caliper bracket, because it spaces it just enough with that tiny piece of metal to keep it cleared. Alright. So after you make yourself a couple shims, it clears now. Put your tire back on, you're on your way.